Hmm. Hi, welcome to EYEJ's Digital Inclusion Week event, Making Connections, Closing the Digital Divide. My name is Miranda, and I am a part of EYEJ's Youth Council. I'm 19 years old, and I'm originally from East Cleveland. Today, I will be speaking with Budu Bengay, a representative for Justin McLaughlin of Air CFO. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hey, thanks, Miranda. Yeah, perfect introduction. I'm Budu Bengay, and I'm actually here covering for Justin, who asked me to speak instead. Um, and it's really an honor. I've known EYJ for a little while now. In my life, I coordinate all of the technology and all of the data that goes into responding to the outbreaks of COVID-19 in New Hampshire. So a little farther away from Cleveland. Um, Before that, I worked as an evaluator and as an epidemiologist um, in various state levels, using technology and coding and scripting and statistics to do all of my work. Before that, I worked as an emergency medical technician, combining healthcare and service and transport and technology. So that's a little bit about me.
Well, it's very nice to meet you, and thank you for speaking with me today. We're going to be talking about EYEJ, the digital divide, and the tech industry, including Air CFO. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, EYEJ's Youth Council decided to focus on connectivity. We felt this was especially important considering that we are social distancing, quarantining, and many things are moving to a digital platform. And as for myself, I had the burden of transitioning from in class lectures and learning to remote learning. So it was difficult adapting to learning from the computer during this pandemic. So just imagine how students feel who don't have a computer. Two-thirds of students in the Cleveland Metropolitan School District does not have adequate learning devices. And of those 38,000 students in that school district, 27,000 of them don't have access to broadband internet. So our goal is to assist in gaining broadband access to the city of Cleveland through awareness, social policy, and partnerships. What makes matters even more pressing is that Cleveland was recently named the worst connected city. Can you believe that?
Yeah, it's difficult, and it sounds like your difficulties and your experience is common. All across the United States, it's been challenge after challenge. And some of those challenges are felt by different people in different ways. And some of them are more severe. And it sounds like Cleveland is experiencing, quite a bit of challenges stemming from a few things. One of those things is connectivity. So just the lack of that physical connection make it really, really difficult to do anything but the small things that you're able to do. It's impossible to do the large things that you're able to do, such as sign in to videos, access things consistently, or even to get access at all. The next is the quality. So, what if you are able to, but you're sort of busting in and out, and you're not able to see things consistently. So not only is it hard to learn, now it's even more frustrating, and those things are being experienced, differently across the United States and across Cleveland. What I've seen is that it really highlights some of the structures and some of the things that are already there and that were already in place, and it really just highlighted how bad they were in certain places. So, the big things that I'm seeing are just the lack of connection, the lack of accessibility, and the quality of accessibility. So I think it's really made a situation worse for places that were already not doing the best to begin with.
I definitely agree. It it just reminds me of a video I actually seen. I think it was yesterday. My mom showed me a video, and the video consisted of a woman, and she had at least 5 kids, and during this quarantine, they all had to go remote for school, but they don't have internet access. So they got computers from their school, and they all use their mom's hotspot from her phone to do schoolwork, and it's hard for all of them. And not to mention that it's also hard for them to what is the word I'm looking for? It's hard for them to learn, but they also have trouble concentrating because they live in a disproportionate area. So that means that there's less room for them to move around the house and be able to concentrate. And they also have to worry about taking care of each other because, I mean, when they're at school, I mean, when they're on the computer learning, their mother is gone for work. So they have to also take care of each other. So
Yeah, that's a great point. So imagine if someone asked that family if they do have Wi-Fi, they would say yes. But if all the kids in that household tried to get on at once, they couldn't get on at once. So maybe the youngest one gets to go on from 7 to 9. The second youngest gets to go on from 9 to 11, and they only have these small windows. And then, what if mom wants to use her phone, for trying to call something that is online now? So what it sounds like to me is that it's just making things a whole lot worse for people that are more busy right now. So, for instance, people that were labeled workers, essential workers, had to go into work and required to. And the idea of taking a sick day and the idea of being away from home is very difficult. So you have a combination of you need to be home, but you're required to go to work, and there's not enough connections for all of those things. So yeah, that story, that video that your mom said, is something that's happening in certain places across the United States, and it's really, really tough.
I agree. Can you talk more about what you're doing in terms of data and COVID?
Yeah, so my responsibility is monitoring all of the outbreaks, clusters and outbreaks across one of the states in America. So we do anything from we call people, we email them, we go and try to understand things that are coming from various sources. So we try to understand things that are coming in from doctors' offices, from testing labs, from schools, from businesses, and from long-term healthcare facilities, from governmental agencies. And those all need to come together and they all need to coordinate. So it's, in terms of data and technology, we're looking at something that is needed just like water is, or just like gas, or just like electricity. And we're seeing just the need for connectivity being a standard basic need. And those communities that don't have this are doing worse than those communities that do have good connection. And it stinks. So in terms of what I do specifically is I monitor cases, so positive test results, for if they get into clusters. So say you have a workplace and there's more than one or two cases, I get notified, and then we track people down and make sure they know how to best stay healthy in their workplace, whether to stay home, whether to go see medical attention, and all of that coordination and communication takes technology. And then we work on special settings, so like schools. You'll notice if you look on the news about COVID in schools, that colleges are really are places right now that are considered hotspots. So if you look at places like nursing homes, if you look at places like governmental agencies, if you look at governmental agencies, and it's weird because they do have a lot of technology, and you're seeing a lot of things, get very busy around there. But you don't notice things. Things that are absent are places that don't have a lot of connection, that aren't able to connect. And you're like, oh, are they doing okay? Are they not doing okay? So those are some of the things that we're seeing in terms of technology at my position. And it's basically that those who have technology, we're able to see what's actually going on. And those that don't have technology, don't have connection, we don't know. And it's more difficult to respond, it's more difficult to understand and support. And then finally, just the need for technology being so basic, and that every single household needs and deserves to have some connection, just because of how valuable it is. It is like water, it is like energy. So that's a lot what we're seeing at the state level where I work.
That's interesting. So it basically seems like using and creating digital resources is a huge component of your work. Can you imagine your work without digital access?
So it'd be very, very, very difficult. And not only just digital access, like you were talking before, quality digital access. And it really is something that was in the news today. And I don't know if everybody has this program on the computer, but it's called Microsoft Excel. And today, Britain reported a tremendous error in their reporting because their whole national agency was keeping track of people that were sick on this thing that's found on most every computer. And it's okay if you're doing a science project or if you're keeping track of surveys for a community program, but it should not be used to keep track of a national disease surveillance. So not only just connecting, but quality connecting is quality in all of this is so important. And we can see it play out everywhere. So yeah, it's definitely something.
Yeah, I agree. How hard does the issue of connectivity impact a company when looking to hire a diverse talent?
So it's very important, to say the least. I work in something where it's part of one thing and part technology. So you can be very good at one thing, public health, and knowing and learning about diseases and learning about all the aspects of things, in pandemics. But if you don't have the experience with technology, it's difficult. So what happens is people that don't have that access to technology don't get to practice and don't get to be involved in it and don't get to benefit from all the tremendous access to things that are out there. It's if someone didn't know what Google was and you showed them how to use Google, they're like, wow, this is pretty amazing. So to find diverse talent, it really is, who can find us and how we can find them, and if they've been practicing things that we need. And that tends to be people who have a lot of access and who have a lot of the resources currently. And it leaves out those people that don't have the access and don't have the resources. So it's really, really important. But saying that, we have people that are able to use what they have. So it's not, something people can't overcome, but it would be so much easier with support from the communities, getting internet connection to everybody, getting, internet to every single home, getting internet to every single place. It just makes it so much easier for that access and connection to all the wonderful stuff that is out there. And then if you just want to talk about stress, imagine if it's so easy to sign on, so easy to learn, so easy to find, our group, and, you have all the skills. It's really stressful trying to join a group and trying to, find a position. And if any of that process is difficult, it just makes it really, really hard to do it. If it's really easy to do something like apply for a job, know what the job is, practice the job skills, it just makes that process easier. But if you're on and off the internet, you try to go for an interview and you can't find something where your internet speeds are good, and you're wicked choppy, you could be, one of the best candidates in the world, and it just doesn't come across. So those are some of the difficulties we've seen in technology and finding diverse talent. And we love diverse talent. The reason why is all problems, if you have the same people thinking about them, you don't come up with very many solutions. But if you have a diverse group of people thinking about something, they think of all the different ways you can come up with solutions to those problems. So we love diverse talent where I am. And then those are the difficulties when connecting because of just lack of access to technology.
How can tech companies in Cleveland work with the community to support young people to have this greater access to better connectivity?
Yeah, I think they just need to recognize the dual benefit. That if you grow within your city, you can support there and acknowledge that. You can get youth, high schoolers and colleges that want to work for you and that have all the skills, attitudes, and awareness, and they already live here. So they don't have to come from any place. So there's a lot of value in that. What it does take a little while to do. So I think that companies need to have some faith in Cleveland, need to have some faith in youth in Cleveland, and need some support. So understanding that because this is a utility that's just as important as electricity or water, it needs to have support from the government. So having some support from the government, having some trust in people like you, Miranda, that that you're going to be here and that you, with given access to resources, you can do anything, and then making sure that it happens, because a lot of promises at different levels, tend to go unfulfilled. So if you have some support from the government, you have some faith in Cleveland youth, and then you follow it through to the end, I think those are three of the key steps that would be very successful and really getting everything you want. And I think it's possible right now.
Yes, I believe we all need to come together as a community to fight the digital divide. Being a part of EYEJ has really allowed me to further believe that youth's voices can be amplified and they can be heard. It's also made me realize how many people are on our side. During our town hall event we had in August where we addressed the issues youth in Cleveland face with the digital divide. It was powerful to see so many people on board and willing to partner with us to make sure that youth have this equal access that they need. So, how do you feel tech companies could better invest in their communities?
Yeah, I mean, I think they need to spend time with youth councils and people like you and ask you that question. You know, as much as I'm an expert in a lot of the things that I do and I lead a team and I'm responsible for a lot of things, it's really asking people, you know, that are in the system, that are in the thing going through it. So I think the first step is communicating with groups like the Youth Council, EYEJ, with you. I think that's the first thing. So listen. Second is just really have some faith, really believe in your community. And I think a lot of groups sort of say they do and they say they're community oriented. But once you listen to EYEJ and that presentation that you all did about the digital divide, it just rings true. And there's investing. And social impact investing is as much as it's about dollars and cents, it's also about the community that you build. So not only, you know, if you spend money on supporting EYEJ's Youth Council, is it not about what you get back, but what grows from it and what comes from it. And getting someone who knows what impact investing is just something that would be very, very valuable to all the tech companies. And then finally, build relationships. The hardest thing to do is attract and retain good, talented employees. And imagine if you said to a youth, hey, we want you to work for us. Here's a living wage. All you got to do is practice these 3 or 4 or 5 skills. Who wants to do that? So this idea of transparency and just dedication to the youth in Cleveland, I think those things would be very helpful and champion, you know, just the awesomeness that's already there.
Yes, I think building relationships and coalition is important. So the results from the pandemic have made it abundantly clear that the urgent need, have made the urgent need to close the digital divide. Okay. So from your perspective, what have we learned about connectivity in the past couple of months?
There's big holes. There are big holes. And it's going to take a combination of local, state, and national efforts to connect them. There's big spaces. And those spaces you can almost define on historical measures, on places that have been historically neglected, on people that have been historically neglected, on current workers that are feeling an imbalance in the labor force. You know, essential workers are being treated differently because they have to be at work, and there's a lot of issues that are going on at home now because, you know, kids and everybody aren't going to school. They aren't going into their community. So there's a lot more time spent at home. So how to connect that digital divide is we need agencies like EYEJ to support the intersection between local, state, and national funds, money, and logistics, and how to do it well, and look at some of the best practices that are being done across the United States. I know that Microsoft in Dallas is doing a great project working with the people there in the communities in Dallas to connect places in Dallas that don't have the connection. So trying to find best practices across the United States and see if they work in your community. And with local, state, and national money, effort, and time, I think that's the keys to the recipe, not the keys, that's the key ingredients to the recipe of success in really this trying to work against the digital divide.
Thank you for that answer. Before we wrap up, do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, I mean, you asked me what do you think Cleveland can do. You know, can you think of anything off the top of your head? What something the youth council has thought about that Cleveland can do to work against the digital divide?
Well, EYEJ has been trying to raise awareness about this digital divide and the unequal access to broadband internet and technology and other technological devices. But I think it's important for community involvement. And I know it's hard because we're in the middle of a pandemic, but I just think that it's important to have the community behind us. Because I mean, of course, we have a voice and it's been being heard, but we need more youth voices because we need voices who are being impacted by this digital divide, so others can see just how important it is.
Yeah, and I mean, that's such a brilliant point, and it's so true. Yeah, I mean, what you just said was so great.
So, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, I have tons of questions, but I feel like this was such a great time and such a great place just to talk about my work, and I'm just so excited. Maybe this is a statement. I'm so excited about the rest of the week. I know that there's so much going on. So I guess I just want to thank you for all of this and all the coordination that goes into it. And it's been really, really fun.
Thank you so much for your time. And it was wonderful to learn more about Air CFO and to speak with you today. I would also like to thank our audience on Facebook Live. Tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, speakers Ethan Karana of the Minorities Together movement and Veronica Blue, founder of Verb Digital Media, will be discussing racial inequity and the digital divide.